the graphing quadratics again. So, the standard form of a quadratic. A quadratic is anything with an x squared in it. It can just be y equals 3x squared, or y equals x squared, y equals negative 2x squared plus 5, y equals 5x squared plus 2x minus 1, as long as it's got an x squared. It doesn't have to have a number or just a plain old x in it. So the standard form, y equals a, which is some number, times x squared. There'll always be an a, every single time. A can be 1 or whatever the number is in front of it. Because remember, if there's nothing in front of it, it's a 1. Plus b times x. Sometimes b is 0. Like here, there is no x, so b is 0. Here, there is no x, b is 0. Here, there is no x, b is 0. But here, there is an x, so b is 2. And then it'd be plus c, just a constant. And again, there can be no const sometimes, so c can be 0. Here, c is 5. Here, c is negative 1. Okay? So when you have an equation, not only with this, but when we're solving them in the next section, I think it is, or the one after, you need to know what a, b, and c is all the time. So like in this equation, a is 5, b is 2, it's a plus, c is negative 1. Everyone understand how to find a, b, and c? Okay. Now, sometimes they'll write it in goofy order. Like that. That's not in standard form. Because it doesn't go x squared x and the constant. But it doesn't matter. You can look and see that a is 2, b is the number in front of x, c is the number without an x. Okay? So, vertex of a parabola and axis of symmetry, you do the same thing to find these. It's x equals, anyone remember what it was from yesterday?
Negative b divided by
C.
Negative b over,
A.
close,
C.
no,
A squared.
X squared.
no,
B squared.
c times a.
2a. X equals negative b over 2a. That's the thing you got to start with every single time. Negative b over 2a. So like in this equation up here that I just made up, I would, to figure out both the axis of symmetry and where the vertex is going to be at, I got to take negative b over 2 times a. Okay, so everyone see where I got these numbers from out of this equation? Negative b over 2 times a. So what that means is when you graph this, the vertex, or I mean the axis of symmetry is going to be at negative 3/4 on the x-axis. The equation x equals negative 3/4 crosses the x-axis there. So what that means is the parabola is going to go through, the vertex is going to be somewhere on there because that's the line that cuts it in half. That's why they call it axis of symmetry. So when they tell you to label the axis of symmetry, you put the dotted line in and then you just put this next to it. Okay, next to the dotted line. Then, in order to find the vertex, you got to find a few points. So this is the first number you plug in, negative 3/4. You plug that into the equation. So there's a lot of calculator stuff here to figure out what y is, and that's where the vertex is going to be. Now, really the only thing that messes this up on a calculator is when this number is a negative. You have to know what your calculator does. This will do it without you worrying about it, this won't. So, the best thing to do when you're punching them in is just put parentheses around the number every single time and just put it the same way. So, it's 3 times parenthesis. Remember, to do a fraction, you just divide. 3 divided by 4, negative, parenthesis, minus 1, plus 2 times parenthesis, 3 divided by 4, negative, parenthesis, squared. And then don't forget, you got to press equals. It turns out to be negative 2.125. That is the vertex. So at left 3/4 and down 2.125, right about there, there's the vertex. So when they tell you to label two things, the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So you just put the coordinate there, negative 3/4. This number and this number will always be the same. Your axis of symmetry number and the x on this vertex. Okay? Now, do you remember how to tell if it opens up or down? If the x squared is positive, it opens up. Negative, it opens down. Okay? So I know it's going to open up like this. All you got to do is find a couple points to see how narrow it is or how wide it is. So you want to find some points on the x, because we're plugging in for x, that's close to this 0. So if you put 0 in, this is 0, that's negative 1. So at 0 over, 1 down is a point. And then you just got to flip it over, reflect it, because it's symmetric. So this is going to flip over here. It's 3/4 away from this. So you go 3/4 on the other side. That would be a fourth, and then another half is 3/4. Then I could put in 1. If I put 1 in here, I get 3, take away 1, plus 2.
That'd be so funny, like,
Sure. Hello? Yeah. No. No, I told Herbeck to ask him, and he hasn't. I haven't seen him yet to see, because I said that we were wondering who it was that was trapping out there.
We'll come on the
Okay. Yeah.
Some people's children, so I will.
All right. We'll see that. Yep. Bye.
We found our senior quote, Stacy.
Who was that? What is it?
She's gonna say some people's children.
Yeah.
I will.
I know.
I didn't know mine.
So this would be 3 minus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. So at 1 over, 4 up.
If they let me.
And then you got to flip it over. This is 1 and 3/4 away. So you'd go 1 and 3/4 would be right about there. And then we can draw it. It's going to look like that. Okay? So that's what we are doing today.
Oh, we're having homework today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
I will be home.
Same.
I don't know why on these they gave us what the graph is, but that's okay. We can go through to see what to do. So remember, anytime you have a graph, the first thing you do is negative b over 2a.
Welcome back.
Where's Harry at though?
You left him behind?
He's actually right there.
Gave him mono.
So a is a 1, b is a negative 4, c is 4. And again, we don't use c yet, but eventually you will, so that's why I keep writing it down. So again, you start with negative b over 2a. Negative 4 turns to negative, negative,
Positive.
positive 4. 2 times A is 2, so x equals 2. So what that means when you make your graph, the axis of symmetry is right there. And if they tell you to label it, you just put x equals 2 next to it. Because that is the line x equals 2. Okay? So what that means is this is the first point. They just put in a whole bunch of points. But that's the first point you want to put in whenever you find what that's equal to. So you got to plug 2 in to the equation. So this would be 4, take away 8, plus 4 is 0. So the vertex, that first point that you find, that's going to be the vertex. 2 over 0 up is the vertex. So you just put the coordinate by it because they always say to label the vertex. Okay? Now all you got to do is find a couple points on either side. So you can go either way. I could put in 3 or 1. 1's a lot easier, so I'll put 1 in. When I put 1 in, I get 1 minus 4 plus 4 is 1. So you plot that point. And then you don't have to put 3 in because you know it's symmetrical. You just reflect it over to there. Right? Then I could put 0 in. When I put 0 in, I get 4. Because that's 0, plus 4. So 0 over 4 up. And then again, you don't have to put another. You just reflect it over to there. And that's enough. Once you have, you know, like the vertex and then 2 sets of points, that's all you need. Sometimes, then you just draw the parabola. Sometimes, really all you need are 3 points because sometimes you'll get a real skinny one. So like here's the vertex, and then you find this point and flip it over, and then the other ones are way down here, like at 12, 13, whatever. You don't need to make your graph that big. You just know it drops down quick. So you just draw it in like that. Okay? So sometimes you only need 3 points. Usually the graphs that we're doing, you'll put 5 in there. Okay, so the main thing is you got to remember to start off with negative b over 2a. A is negative 1, b is 2, c is negative 1. So negative 2 over 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. That makes 1. So the axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. So that's the first point you put in. So when I plug 1 in here, again, you got to be able to use your calculator right. 1 squared is 1, but that makes it negative because the negative isn't being squared here. Plus 2 times 1 minus 1. And that's 0. So at 1 over 0 up is the vertex. Now I just find a couple other points. 0 is close to it, so I'd put 0 in. This would be 0, that'd be 0, and that'd be negative 1. So 0 over 1 down, and then you just flip it over, reflect it over the dotted line. Then you could put in negative 1. Again, I don't like dealing with negatives, but you can. What I would do is come over here and put 3 in. Because it doesn't do any good to put 2 in because I already have that point. So put 3 in. 3 squared is 9, but that's negative. Plus 2 times 3 is 6. Take away 1 is negative 4. So 3 over 4 down. And then you just reflect it over. You guys remember reflecting? Mm-hmm. We didn't do it this year. You did it last year. It's 2 away, so you just go 2 over here. And then you can draw it. All right? Mm-hmm. You guys think you have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, sometimes we don't have to graph. Sometimes they ask, does it open up or down? How about this one?
Down.
Down. Because it's got a negative x squared. Up. Because it's got a positive x squared.
What's wrong with you?
Then, to write the equation of the axis of symmetry. When they ask that, all they're asking for is x equals negative b over 2a. That's the equation. So x equals negative b. B would be a negative 1. So negative, negative turns to positive. 2 times a is a negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So that's the axis of symmetry. Okay? That's all I want you to do on this. Here, negative b, so negative, negative 2 turns to 2, over 2 times a is 6. 2 6 you would reduce to 1/3. Okay? All right, we'll do a few together.